Hello, I'm Riz Khan. Thanks for joining me. This week, two of the year's most keenly anticipated cultural milestones are revealed to the world. Spotify Wrapped and the Word of the Year. Well, exactly 1 year ago, I was surprised and delighted to learn that rizz had been chosen by the Oxford University Press as its Word of the Year. Even better, it was being used to identify someone who possesses rizz as having charm or charisma. This week, my name was sadly replaced by a new word, or actually two words, brain rot. Quite the contrast. So on this edition of the show, we'll find out how Gen Z and social media are changing the language we use. We'll be joined by the creators of this viral video, which earned millions of views for a British museum.
Brat summer is over, bestie. It's time to enter your historical era. The Royal Armouries is the most Sigma day out in Leeds. No cap.
We'll also meet Seera, the all-female psychedelic rock band from Saudi Arabia, who released their debut album today. But we'll start with Spotify Wrapped. And as I speak, tens of millions of music fans around the world are checking their Spotify app to find out who are the biggest artists, songs, and podcasts of 2024. Well, the Wrapped campaign itself has become a viral moment as thousands of artists share their messages with fans, while hundreds of millions of Spotify users share the secrets of their own listening data, the good, the great, and even the regrettable. Well, I'm delighted to say that the managing editor of Spotify in the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia joins me in the studio to share some of the biggest news regionally and globally. Akshat Harbola, thank you very much for being with me.
Thanks, Riz. Thanks for inviting me.
Pleasure. Now, the Spotify Wrapped event is a huge global event, and it's for artists, podcasters, and the fans, of course. But for those who don't really know what it's about, tell me what it is.
So Wrapped is our annual thank you to all of the fans, the artists, and the podcasters all across the globe. It's the way we see it. It's our thank you to everyone who soundtracked our life and the world around us. Right? And the way it shows up on your app is you get a personalized user experience, which if you have an updated version of the app, if you don't get it right now, you get to see Wrapped in front of you. Just to give you a sense of the scale and the magnitude of Wrapped, when we launched Wrapped last year, over 225 million users across the globe engaged with Wrapped content. There were 40,000 plus video thank yous from artists that was sent out to their fans, and there were 725 million views of these videos that people engaged with, half of them Gen Z. Right? So that's the scale of Wrapped.
And the amazing thing is it's got a theme each year. So what's the theme this year?
Yeah, so allow me to step back a little bit. Wrapped has gone through a tremendous journey. This is the 10th year anniversary of Wrapped. It actually started as something that was just reflecting culture all around us, essentially what people were listening to. Cut to now, it's really become this huge cultural moment where artists, fans, podcasters, and other creators are coming together and celebrating all the great music and all the great content that's emerging around us. Right? In 2024, Wrapped is a global brand campaign. It's a personalized user experience. There's an artist experience, and there is a podcaster experience as well. Right? So all of that coming together with Wrapped in 2024, we're celebrating this year where we think that culture has been shaped, fandom has been explored in very unique ways, and new music has been created. Right? So this is what Wrapped 2024 is all about.
Well, actually, Spotify users love sharing their own information, their own results and data, but the big headline grabber is what you call the global top lists. And that's the artists, albums, songs, and podcasts with the most plays on the platform. So let's have a drum roll, and it's time for the big reveal. Tell us.
All right, let's go for it. So starting with the most streamed global artist this year, second year in a row, it's Taylor Swift.
1, 2, 3.
So for Taylor Swift in particular, for the Swifties, for the fans of Taylor Swift, we have some special experiences built into the app. So if you get into the app, you will see a global top artist badge come in front of Taylor Swift's profile this year. For the first time ever, we're doing this in the app. So that's the first thing you'll see. You'll also see, on-platform Easter Bunny kind of an experience, which means that depending on what track of Taylor you're streaming, you'll see in-app mini animations popping up. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if you're streaming 1979, then you may see sparkles or you may see seagulls if it's another album, right? So, some in-app innovations coming out, and then so we know that Swifties are crazy about friendship bands, right? So we're creating an augmented reality friendship band that people can get into Snapchat and get access to for the global top artists this year. So that's the experience for Swifties, just to celebrate the #1 artist, right. Taylor Swift. Number 2 on the list is Weeknd. Number 3, Bad Bunny. Number 4 is Drake. And finally, rounding out the top 5 is Billie Eilish.
Amazing.
Yeah.
She's been around for a while then.
She's been around for a while, yes, 100%.
And it sounds like the artists are directing how Spotify shapes the experience directly. So it's quite, I don't know about collaborative, but certainly it's interactive.
It's very interactive, and look, ultimately Spotify is a very personalized experience, right? So the more you consume of a certain artist, the more of them or similar artists you start seeing in your Spotify experience too. So what you're saying is absolutely correct, right? And maybe jumping onto the top stream songs, because that's where it starts getting a little bit exciting, right? So in the top stream songs, we have Sabrina Carpenter's smash hit Espresso, which is also most likely I'm just predicting yet, I haven't seen my rap results, it's probably my #1 stream track as well. So Sabrina Carpenter's Espresso is #1. Number 2, you see Beautiful Things by Benson Boone. Okay. Amazing genre-bending track that we've seen come out this year. On number 3, Billie Eilish again, Birds of a Feather. She's on number 3. On number 4, we see Gata Only, Floy Menor and Chris MJ. Floy Menor is a Chilean artist. And then on number 5, we have Lose Control by Teddy Swims. Again, has to be on my top 5 as well. Right? So this rounds out the top 5 songs for 2024.
Do any of the things I might listen to, slightly more retro, ever come up into the? I guess the modern songs and the streaming is really based on what younger people are listening to. I guess, I don't know.
A large part of our user base tends to be young, Gen Z, and younger millennials. But the good part about Wrapped is it's not just about the top list. It's also about the personalized list. So when you log into your Wrapped personalized experience and share that with your buddies, you'll see a lot of commonalities.
I'll be revealing that.
Yes.
I'll be revealing that on this show.
Yeah.
What about podcasts? That's really changed a lot about the way people consume information, news, and even kind of entertainment.
Yes, 100%. So podcasts are growing phenomenally. We entered the podcasting space in 2019, and since then, 500 million people have heard a podcast on Spotify. So we're seeing a tremendous amount of growth. When it comes to the top list, the Joe Rogan Experience is on #1, the 5th year in a row.
Wow,
right?
yeah.
So that continues to be the top podcast anywhere in the globe. And then following that, you have Call Her Daddy, which is incredibly popular. We have Huberman Lab, which is a science-based podcast, one of my top podcasts personally. You have This Past Weekend with Theo One. And then you have The Diary of a CEO, incredibly popular in this region as well, right, by Stephen Bartlett.
Yeah.
So that is the podcasting story for 2024.
Now, beyond Wrapped, how has 2024 worked out for Spotify in terms of business and its general growth and positioning?
So 2024 has been a very successful year for us. We've done very well across most of the business metrics as well as product metrics that we track internally. Our Q3 results just came out, and we reported strong results across revenue, across monetization, and profitability. Just to share a couple of them with you, we've now crossed 640 million users across the globe, and we've crossed the milestone of 250 million paid subscribers across the globe. Right? So healthy user growth, healthy monetization. Where our revenues are growing at 19% year on year.
Amazing.
And we're not just on track, we're probably ahead of where we thought we'd start the year. And this year is most likely going to be the first fully profitable year where each quarter Spotify has been profitable.
Let me ask you, apart from the global picture, you yourself deal with the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia, a massive chunk of the global music market, of course. And we're going to focus on the first two today, what you call the MENA region, Middle East, North Africa. Tell me about some of the aspects of how that region, the products from here, the people from here, the artists and so on, has grown.
Yeah. So this region is very interesting because it's very heterogeneous, even though it's seen as Middle East and North Africa, so it's seen as a monolith if you're seeing it from the outside, but it's very, very heterogeneous. So you have a market like Morocco, right, which is an Arabic-speaking country, but has influences of Darija. It has influences of French. Then you have Egypt, which is the mother of civilization, has its own music culture. You have Saudi Arabia, which has the Gulf music, or what is known as Khaliji music, right? So a very, very diverse landscape. I'm seeing two big trends in this region. Number one, the mainstream genres still continue to be very, very relevant. That's what we see in our rap data.
That's what I was going to ask, because rap must give you a lot of information.
Exactly. So, and when I say mainstream, it means different things in different markets. So in a market like Saudi Arabia, Khaliji rules. So you have an artist like Ayad, who's the reigning prince of Khaliji music and really redefining the sound of what Khaliji looks like, really doing well on our charts. But you also have the legends like Abdullah or Rashid Al-Majid being number 2 and number 3 on our charts for local artists. Then you go to a market like Egypt, where you have a combination of emerging talent, like Too Late doing really, really well, but the traditional biggies like Amr Diab or Shireen also being very, very dominant on the rap tracks, right? And then you have a market like Morocco, where traditionally pop and Spotify hasn't done very, very well, but this year we've seen the resurgence of pop music, and it's doing really well on our top charts in Morocco. So that's the first theme that I see. The second theme that I see is that the hyper-growth genres, and some of them called street genres, have rapidly exploded in the region. Right? One example of that would be Mahraganat in Egypt, which the best way of defining that would be electrifying street music with huge dollops of electronica, hip-hop, and auto-tune, and you have this genre called Mahraganat. It has a very DIY ethos, so sometimes the artists in their home studios are producing 3 to 4 tracks a week. And that sort of intensity is showing up on our rap charts. 40% of our rap charts for Egypt are Mahraganat. So two big trends. One is the mainstays are still the mainstays, pop music, Khaliji music, but then these genres which just emerged in the last 5 years or maybe, depending on the genre, 5 to 10 years, are really hitting mainstream now in the region.
And that's actually what's interesting is the listening habits of people in different cities. And I guess Spotify's data can give a very accurate impression of that.
100%. Once you start looking at cities, it becomes really, really interesting. So let's start with Riyadh, for example. Riyadh is essentially a mirror of our global trends. So the top artist list that I shared with you a few minutes back, the only difference between Riyadh and the rest of the world is Bad Bunny doesn't show up in the top 5. Instead, Travis Scott does. Right? Okay. And Travis Scott has performed in Riyadh a few times in the last couple of years, so maybe that's got something to do with that. So Riyadh, very clued on with the global trends, but also, like I said earlier, consuming a lot of Khaliji music. Right? So that's Riyadh. Mumbai is the city of love. Right? Irrespective of how you cut it, whether it's Bollywood music, whether it's iPop music, or whether it's upbeat music or mellow music, it's all about love. Right? So artists like Arijit Singh, artists like Shreya Ghoshal, artists like Pritam are emerging as top artists in a city like Mumbai. So that's Mumbai for you. And then let me tell you what's going on in Dubai or Miami, which are the cultural melting pots, right? Miami, Bad Bunny is on top. And that reflects the Latin connections of that city. Right. So, very clearly Bad Bunny has to be on top, while other global artists continue to do well in Miami. And in Dubai, the city where we're sitting right now, This is an international city. There are 180 nationalities that live here. So Taylor Swift on top in Dubai. She's the #1 streamed artist in Dubai. But you also see Korean sensation Jin with his single Astronaut doing really, really well here. And then the Indian icon Arijit Singh doing very, very well here in Dubai as well. So depending on which city you go to, very interesting trends start emerging.
And how well does music from the MENA region travel around the world to other audiences?
So the music from the region has been traveling as people from the region have been traveling and finding new homes across the globe. So when we look at our data, we see a large number of streams in the US and broader North America, in Europe, because a lot of the diaspora, the Arab diaspora, lives in these areas. And listening to music from the likes of Feroz, Shireen, Amr Diab, Abdul Majid Abdullah is a connection back to home, irrespective of where you are. Right? But what we've seen this year is very exciting. Artists who have roots in this region are starting to step into the global mainstream of music. I'll give you 2 examples. Saint Levant has performed at Coachella this year. Eliana has performed with Coldplay this year, and she's part of one of their tracks on their latest album. The track is called We Pray. Right? So a lot of the artists from this region are hitting mainstream when it comes to global pop culture. The final example there is one of the Egyptian rappers, Mohammed Ramadan, is likely to play at Coachella next year. Right? So some very interesting developments in terms of music from this region traveling across the globe.
Actually, what are the challenges and the opportunities for Spotify in a country like Saudi Arabia? You gave us that profile of Riyadh as a city, just fascinating actually. But you know, we have Saudi Arabia as a country that's come through rapid transformation, of course, heading toward its 2030 goals in terms of what it wants to achieve in terms of culture and music. What are the challenges and the opportunities for you?
Right. So, like you said, Saudi Arabia is going through a massive transformation across many different sectors, including media and entertainment, right? And we're seeing this happen in music as we speak. The number of concerts that Riyadh has seen over the last couple of years is unparalleled. If I have to guess, you know, these many concerts the number of concerts in the last 2 years are probably more than the combined number of concerts in the last 20 years. Right? So that is the intensity of the music scene development. The biggest challenge that I see is that compared to a market its size, the volume of music output is still relatively low, which means that we, along with the government and the rest of the industry, still need to do a lot more to incubate the music ecosystem, to inspire the next generation of artists so that this music economy becomes a really healthy and a vibrant music economy, which it will in a few years from now.
That actually came to mind because Spotify is such a powerful platform. And I wonder what Spotify does to help artists break into the industry and perhaps even take it to the next level.
Yeah. So at its core, Spotify provides access to millions and millions of fans in your market and across the globe. Right? And the way we do that is through expert curation and by providing recommendations to the users that make sense for the artists as well. Right? So that is Spotify's core value proposition. But what we do in different markets and depending on the needs of the market is build artist development programs to take the artists from the current level to the next level. An example of that would be a program like Radar, which focuses on artists which are on the cusp of breaking through the mainstream league. Right? So we would provide them access to Spotify best practices, marketing resources, and general hand-holding when it comes to doing well at Spotify. And then depending on the needs of the market, we would also consider incubator programs or residency programs where the most important need in the market is to incubate early-stage talent and support them in their journey to become bigger over time.
On that note, let's touch on your Fresh Finds artist residencies and how that works and how that benefits artists.
Right. That one I'm incredibly proud of. We've just wrapped up our Fresh Finds residency program in Saudi Arabia. And the way this program runs is we identify a set of artists who represent the sound of the market, and then we provide them access with the best expertise and the best knowledge that's available in the market. So we just wrapped up our program in Saudi Arabia, where there were 4 artists. They were paired with regional producers, and they were given instructions and provided expertise on things like music marketing, production, knowing about copyright and the like, and everything that an artist needs to know as they're at the ground floor of their journey upwards. Right? And I'm happy to say that we now have 4 tracks coming out of that program, and I've been personally vibing to those tracks, and I would recommend you do that as well.
Well, actually, yeah, so we're about to speak to one of the Fresh Finds artists, the psychedelic rock band, the all-female rock band from Saudi Arabia called Seera. And I wonder what it was like working with them.
Oh, it was incredible. They're incredibly determined, incredibly hardworking and disciplined. Psychedelic rock is something I've personally sort of enjoyed over the last 20 years. So when I've discovered Seera, I think it was sometime last year, I was very excited by their sound. They've come out with a new track called Nafas, and I would highly recommend all of your viewers give it a listen. It's a good track, and one of the results of this residency that we just wrapped up. We hope to do more of this, both in Saudi, but also in other markets where this would be relevant.
It's wonderful. It sounds like there's a lot of talent waiting to be discovered. And you guys have the power and the platform to do it.
100%. We're committed to doing this.
Well, actually, I'm going to be sharing my Spotify Wrapped results a little later as well. But I want to thank you very much in the meantime for joining me. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Riz. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yep. Well, Akshat mentioned that one of the artists Spotify has been supporting in the Middle East is Seera, a 4-member all-female psychedelic rock band from Saudi Arabia. So let's take a listen to some of their music. Well, that's a clip from their single Wahm Al-Kimma from their debut album released today titled Al-Mujallad Al-Awwal. That in English means Volume 1. And the 4 band members join us now from their rehearsal room in Riyadh. Seera, I want to welcome you to the show. Great to have you as a band on. I'm going to start by asking each of you to just give me a couple of lines on your background, how you got involved in this, and what role you play. And Noura, I'll start with you, basically.
Hi, my name is Noura. I'm the lead vocalist. I also play the keys and synth. I've always had a passion for the little details in music, which is why I got into production. I also have a background in classical music, and that's my roots, starting from the age of 15. And since then, we've adapted, we moved, we fusioned the situation, and we're here.
Hi, I'm Thing. I'm Seera's drummer. Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were going to get more than that from Thing.
Hi, I'm Mish. I'm the bassist. I like being the glue that brings the song together. And I got into music through Guitar Hero. Was a big metalhead, but kind of like dispersed or whatever. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Haya. I'm the guitarist, and I like to spice things up with the Arabic scales that I play, and I like to make things psychedelic with the many, many, many pedals that I have. I have an endless supply of guitar pedals and many more to come.
You sound like my brother, who's a guitarist, and I couldn't count all the pedals he had. Noura, as the lead vocalist and fronting the band in some ways, tell me about the kind of impression you're trying to make as a band. What was your goal as a band as you came together?
I think our biggest goal was to tell stories. We wanted to tell stories that the audience could resonate with, from challenges from our real life, and I think that's our biggest goal. We also really want to inspire the younger generation to pick up an instrument, express themselves, sing however way they want, play however way they want, and yeah.
I know, Mish, you're Noura's sister, and I'm wondering what it's like, because when family's in a band, you've got the relationship in the band and the relationship outside. How does that work?
I mean, there's definitely a benefit to it. Like a lot of times it would be like 3 a.m. and I can't sleep and she can't sleep and we'd just meet up somewhere and write or jam. But you need to know how to separate like home life from band life and just disassociate the two when you need to.
Now, did you all have a long career in music? Because I know, Noura, you were saying you've been playing since you were a kid and so on. And I wonder, for example, Haya, did you have a long career in music?
Professional career, no. Actually, the first time I had ever received a paycheck from music was with these two girls. I was 28 years, I was 28 years old. But the first time I actually started playing the guitar was 20 years before that. I was 8 years old when I started playing guitar. And I started playing piano around the age of like 4. So in terms of having a musical background, yeah, it's been a number of years. But career, no, that's very new, as it is very much new in Saudi in general.
And thing, of course, you know, people are going to see you there on the drums. Some might be intimidated by the fact you've got that look. Explain that look to me.
I'll tell you 100%, I'm the scariest person in the band. I pass by people, don't see me coming, and they're like, whoa, what's going on? Some people go, Bismillah, you know? It's really funny. But, so this mask is basically used to reside in my mom's salon at home. She had like collected these vintage and really old pieces from the Arabian Peninsula. They're like antiques, like bangles, necklaces, daggers, things like that. And I remember seeing this one for the longest time ever. So when the band formed like 2 years ago and we were about to perform, I thought I would wear, you know, like a mask, because I really love like Slipknot, Daft Punk, Kiss. Everybody had like hidden their identity. It was like this element of mystery, and I really liked it as a gimmick, you know, like a prop. And I thought it'd be really cool to wear one. So I got it to the band. And I'm like, what do you guys think? And they loved it. They were like, yeah, it works. So that's the story.
And thing, I saw you in this rehearsal studio video wearing a T-shirt with Korn on it, and I know you're a big fan of Korn.
Yeah.
I was wanting to ask you what your music influences are generally.
Well, I would have to say it's a mixture between new metal, classic rock, prog rock. I listen to like a lot of music, hip hop, rap. I think because I play drums, and it's mostly the beats and the percussion and everything that gets me to become really creative. So I really enjoy listening to everything, and then it kind of just stays somewhere in my memory, so that when you write music, it just all comes together naturally, and you know.
So Noura and the rest of you also, just give me an idea of your musical influences.
My influence growing up was I really loved classical music. I loved Beethoven, Mozart, Chopin, and then I also loved rock and metal. So there was always this blend and mix of different influences, and I think that's really what makes Seera unique, is that we all have different tastes in music. We have a lot of similar interests, and all that together creates this new sound that's different.
Yeah, so we're clearly all very much influenced by rock and metal. But I'm also super influenced by classical music too, and what I love about having Noura in the band is that sometimes I'll hear a classical piece and, you know, I'll show it to people and they're like, oh, okay, nice. But then I'll show it to Noura, she'll be like, whoa, I hear that and I hear this. And then we take elements of it and we allow it to influence our own style and our own sound. But my ultimate influence and the way that Seera came to be is there's a band called Altingun. It's a Turkish or Anatolian folk psychedelic rock band. So in April 2022, I found Mish and Noura on Instagram, and I saw that they were doing music together, which I thought was very touching. And I had seen that Mish was posting covers of The Doors. And so I just reached out to her. I was like, hey, are you based in Riyadh? This is an album that I'm very much influenced by, and I want to, make music similar to this. I want to put a band together. Are you open to it? So she listened to it. She was like, yeah, I'm totally open to it. And we met up, and she was telling me, hey, by the way, I have a sister that's a musician too, and me and her have always wanted to be in a band together. So how about I invite her over so we can have a jam? And Noura did come over, and it was just surreal being with two other women from Saudi that had such a shared vision and goal and dream, and we're talking about touring and we're talking about playing in different venues, but we had that one missing link, which was Thing. And when we did find Thing, actually that was really that's what completed the puzzle. And we later found out that she also had this dream of always had this dream of being in a band, of going on tour, of playing to audiences. So like I feel, I feel goosebumps as I'm talking about this right now. So I'm going to pass the mic before I start tearing.
Yeah, Misha, I was going to say, because you said you had influences including like metal style music. I think a lot of people would be surprised to find four young Saudi women with these kind of musical influences.
I mean, with the help of the internet, like you could get into anything. Like, and Guitar Hero kind of helped me like discover all these metal bands and stuff. So yeah.
What do you think, Misha, is the most kind of misunderstood thing? Because people are going to be watching this and saying, four Saudi women playing this kind of music or have this kind of influence on them. I think there's a lot of stereotyping. How much are you having to deal with that?
I mean, maybe like, well, we were told before, like, if you did a genre that was more digestible, like pop and stuff, you would go really big and whatever. But we wanted to do our own thing, whatever that thing was. And people seem to like it, and the metal scene and rock scene in Saudi is growing more and more. I mean, Metallica came to Middle East last year, and this year they're getting Muse and 30 Seconds to Mars. So it's not really like, there are a lot of people that are into this music here.
All right. Thing, you were saying that you're a self-taught drummer, like me essentially. Were there any musicians in your family that had any influence on you?
No, there are no musicians in my family. I am actually the first musician in my entire family is history. My parents' descendants, to my knowledge, were not musicians either. So yeah, that's an interesting thought.
And how has your family reacted to you being part of a band like this?
No, my parents were very supportive. My dad actually came to our debut show with my mom, and my siblings came too. But like my parents were there, and before when I started learning drums and I got the drum set to my house, my mom was like, "A drum set? Where are you gonna play this? Who are you gonna play with?" And then when I was on stage that day, I'm like, "Look, I'm playing with Seera. I'm in a band now." The drum kit 10 years later was very useful. So that was really cool.
Yeah. And Noura, you explain the name Seera, because we were talking a little bit earlier just before we started the interview itself, and it means journey.
So when we first came up with the name, I remember like we were all on the phone together and we're just saying random words. Okay, what are we? Camel funk? Are we? Hey, I was hungry. She was like naming all the dishes in the world. We're not gonna be called French fries. Okay, forget that. Curly fries is not gonna happen. And then Seera came, I think, because we all had a mutual vision of telling stories, and that's really what resonated with us. We're like, this is actually gonna impact our music. It's gonna help us. So it is our journey. Yeah.
And it's short and sweet. Like.
Yeah.
Rolls off the tongue.
Haya, just give me some idea of what the challenges are in having a musical career in Saudi Arabia as it's kind of coming out of this shroud for a lot of people in the West.
We see no challenges, just opportunities for growth.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, the challenges have been, just the
What outfit to wear?
what outfit to wear now. The challenges have been like all these opportunities that we've been getting. Like there's so many choices. We get all these like requests for bookings and stuff, and it's just like, do we want to be in Al Ula this weekend or in Jeddah?
Could I take this? I mean, I think the main challenge would be like not enough venues or resources or institutions, or because we're still building that all together. But as time passes by, there's more and more opening up. So it doesn't seem like these challenges would last too long.
Well, that's what I was wondering, how you find rehearsal areas, studios, how you get involved with record labels, because this is all quite early days for Saudi Arabia.
I think you've definitely named the challenges right there in that question. Yeah.
I really want to say that whatever facilities, whoop, 1 second, yeah. So I want to say whatever facilities that we have available right now, because the industry here locally is growing at a really fast pace. And I think what they're trying to do, there are a lot of efforts in creating all these facilities to support musicians in whatever way possible. And I think all of this is great. And I just want to highlight that Seera are independent musicians. In the beginning, before we were joined by our manager, we were basically handling everything on our own, our debut show, our promotions. And we were approached, you know, from local labels and like institutions and things like that, but we really wanted to go at it alone, and we really liked the journey of kind of organizing things and trusting each other and working together. And I think that's what built our trust more, that we're more of a unit, and we've made our dream come true. We launched an album, we did something together. It's a really emotional time for us. Yeah, we're going on tour. We're doing all these like really cool things that we never dreamed of doing. And I think just that feeling on its own has been surreal. And then they can continue with the adjectives.
Things are moving a mile a minute thanks to like the Music Commission, Vision 2030. I think maybe the biggest challenge was that we didn't have enough institutions at the time to learn theory, music theory and all that stuff. But it's also very important to have people you can, you know, relate to, jam with, have fun with, and that creates the passion, because music is an art form. So art is beautiful in all its forms. So yeah.
Yeah, and Spotify was playing quite a big part in your development as well, I gather. They seem to be great fans of yours. We spoke with the head of the region, and they're very big fans. What role did they play, and how have they helped move things along for you?
So Spotify actually put together an accelerator program, and something that they really supported us with is, you know, I know that each one of us, ever since we formed the band, have been talking about, you know, getting involved with an artist in residency program, and Spotify made that a reality for the first time. And not just that, they also connected us with one of the top most groundbreaking producers in the region, El Waili. So we really are big fans of Spotify too, because they really made that reality. They've helped us accomplish our first artist in residency program, our first collaboration with someone like El Waili. I'm getting, you know, people I know from past lives messaging me saying, hey, you know, we're big fans of El Waili. We just heard your music. That's amazing. So really getting our sound out there, which we're really grateful for. And not just that, I'll let my bandmates also speak some more, but everything from, you know, we've done so many different workshops on music production, on social media, marketing, music marketing, on how to use Spotify as a platform as artists, and I'll let the rest of the band continue in chiming in.
One of the key things I should point out is that you've also been hailed as the kind of groundbreaking female phase of music coming out of Saudi Arabia. That's a double-edged sword because the expectations are high. So do you see that as a blessing or a burden?
It's definitely a blessing. I think we have a lot of passion in us. We have drive. We got the fire, and we just want to help people, you know, move and dance and just loosen up, because life is fun, you know, and that's pretty much it. So it's not been. I feel like it's just a beautiful opportunity for us, really, to help the younger generations really pick up an instrument, play music, see what they like, and make an impact.
Let's talk about some of your tracks, and I'm going to just take you through the styles, because you've got a very eclectic sound. It's really fascinating, the influences have come in. Let me ask you about a couple of these songs. Let's start with the one in English. It would be Illusion of the Summit, Raham al-Kimma.
It's about how like you always think that, oh, if I get this done, I'll get to the top, and then you drop back down, you know? And it's a cycle, but you need to find happiness in the process.
What is the process for you guys working together in terms of the songwriting, where the lyrics come from? Who is there one person that particularly sets the tone, or do you really add chip in different ways?
I mean, usually we write the music first, and then Noura would write the lyrics over it. So someone would just bring up a chord progression, some transitions, something that they like noodled with and liked, and then we'd all sit together and we have this board in our practice space where we write the emotion of each section of a song. So like, this is supposed to feel chaotic, this is supposed to feel melancholic, whatever that is. And the more we play it, the more ideas we come up with. And Noura takes it from there with the lyrics.
وكلنا من طينة واحدة بس يا خيال علمنا كيف نقيس من شاف أحبابه نسيان أصحابه وش اللي صار أشوفني في كل بلد ألحق الأمواج والسما تنبض.
Tell me about the work you did together with the song Nafas.
Yeah, so we got into the studio, and it was the first time that we got into a studio with a non-band member. And for him, it was the first time that he collaborates with a band, with a live band, because usually he collaborates with vocalists or with other musicians, but separately and not collectively. And each one of us really just brought something that was stored in our subconscious. Like, for example, I can speak specifically to my contribution in that piece. You can hear a bit of a Saharan desert blues kind of feel to it, and that's something that's always been lodged in my psyche and would peep out with Seera, but really in this track, that's when it kind of just sprouted.
Let's talk about one other song here, Al Fana, Oblivion.
So the story is just about, always feeling like you have a lot of questions that you have no answer to, that you're lost in life's corners, overthinking things that are kind of meaningless, and the bigger picture is different. So that was really our inspiration.
And that's the beauty of what you can do with what your band, with what you're doing, is you can combine these elements of Middle Eastern music with all the Western influences you've had and have quite a unique sound.
So the story behind Shara al-Buhtari, it's actually very ironic. We wanted to find a way where we can tell, we wanted to delve into the topic of mental health awareness, and this is something that's very important for us. But we also wanted to make the music a little bit lighthearted and have people still be able to move and dance to it, kind of like, the Smiths and how they have this fun element and twist. Yeah, ironic. It's a bit ironic. So from that, I guess the story created itself, and the story delves into a character, which is a girl who wakes up and she has kind of a conversation with her anxiety, and it tells her you need to find a way out. So the song delves into, okay, how is she gonna find that healing? And she meets like-minded people, and suddenly she realizes that she's not alone, and that changes everything for her.
And that video of that shows a warehouse, which is a popular music venue in Riyadh, I gather.
Yeah.
How was it being in front of a live audience like that?
Oof. Our first show was in the warehouse, actually, and to our surprise, it was a full house. Everyone was there cheering us on. it was just a magical experience. Our legs were shaking. We looked like leaves, you know. But once we got on the stage, it just felt so natural for us to be performing. Like we were made to do this. And I think the highlight of the show itself was just hearing everyone go, Seera, Seera, Seera. And we're like, okay, there's a future here because this is a dream. It's a dream we've had for years. And seeing that kind of come to life, it just really was a chance for us to. Okay, I'll give Tina a second.
And really, congratulations to you. It's amazing what you've done. You just released your album, so congratulations on that too. And you have tour plans. Tell me about those.
So we played our first show ever to a live audience on the 4th of May, which was a Thursday. And around, what was it, Tuesday, we were like, okay, no one knows that this is happening. How are we going to promote it? So we put a post up on Instagram, and we promoted it. And I remember we were talking to one another and we were saying, okay, listen, there's not much promotion. We've had 2 days of promotion. It's very likely that only 5 people will show up, 2 of whom are Thing's parents. Okay. So, but then we turn up to the concert, to our first concert, and it's sold out. The crowd goes back as far as the eye can see. And my sister, just to paint the picture, my sister came in maybe a few minutes late. She was 5 minutes late, and we were getting through our first song. And she had to tell the person at the reception who was selling the tickets, because tickets were sold out. She had to be like, "Hey, that's my sister on the stage," so that they would, be like, "Okay, come in," even though it's sold out. We had some pretty influential influencers that wanted to attend, but it was completely sold out. So we're like, we don't care how many followers you have on Instagram. You don't show up in time, then you miss out. Yeah, and tour.
Nora, let me ask you one thing about this. There you are, this massive crowd, as Hayes just described. You're looking out over it, and you've got to have your voice together and sing. What was going through your head as you looked out over that sea of people?
Well, something about me is that I'm kind of a perfectionist, so before a show, I'm going to prep it to the max. I'm going to wear the outfit that we're going to perform in and everything on the keys, and I'm going to act like I'm talking to an audience. And I think that method really helps me a lot in the live show, especially, the speech segments. And stage fright is actually one of the most things that people are afraid of in the world. So it's a very common fear. But I think the more we practice it, I think looking at the stage and seeing, my girls and my sister, and knowing that there's, a lot of love on stage, it really helps us get through. I saw my cousins in the crowd, and everything felt great. Everyone in the first row were our loved ones, and they were cheering so loud. It felt just destiny. It was destiny, really. It was destiny.
Well, Thing, why don't you pick up on this idea of the touring and the tour plans? Do you expect to get out there international touring anytime soon?
Well, yes, we're in the process of organizing a tour in Saudi. We want to expand to MENA region, and then possibly even do a world tour, if anything. And we're pretty stoked about that.
And if anyone's asking what would they expect from a Seera concert, how would you describe it in a line?
It's an ebb and flow of emotions and excitement. I would definitely recommend, if you're interested in interesting music, you should definitely come and listen to us, because we really know how to put on a show. We have a lot to say through our music. It's a guaranteed pleasure, and I only say this humbly, because not from my opinion, but from the opinion of the fans that have attended our multiple shows and have shown us a lot of emotion. There were tears, there were joy. People were hugging us after the show. We were getting a lot of "you inspire me." Some people were even, covering the bassist and the guitarist, the songs, and that's amazing, because we never really imagined that. And I think that's the type of impact you want to make on your audience. They're engaged, and that's why I say, if you want to enjoy a show, you can come.
Well, you guys are cutting edge, not only in the fact that you've made such a name for yourself already with the first female Saudi group playing, this kind of very unique type of music as well, and blend of stuff, but also because you're going to be role models for a lot of young musicians. And I wonder, when it comes to these young musicians, particularly women and girls, perhaps even from your region, what would be the advice you'd give them on taking up the career that you guys have managed to achieve?
Yeah, go ahead.
Honestly, our first piece of advice would be just do it. It sounds cliche, it sounds very overused and oversaid, but really just take the first step. Connect with other people around you. If your style is to make music with other people, just like it is for us, then connect with other people. If your way of doing it is more solo, then get in front of the keys, get in front of a guitar, take the lessons, spend the time, put yourself out there on Instagram. Put yourself. If it wasn't for Noura and Mish putting themselves out there and making recording themselves playing together and playing alone, we would have never found each other. So, and also something that I know is the same for each and every single one of us. We've always wanted to be in a band. And, you know, for some of us, this happened later in life than others. And the one thing that we kept saying when people would ask us, hey, are you in a band? We would say, no, we're not in a band yet. We wouldn't shut it down by saying, no, we're not in a band. It's never going to happen because it doesn't seem like it's going to happen now. So really hold on to that hope. Dream your reality into existence. This is what each and every single one of us has done. And yeah, it's all possible. As much of a far reality as it might seem, if you do the work, if you show up every day, if you keep a good head on your shoulders, you keep a good attitude, you will get there. And also, of course, if you lean on one another, then you will get there.
Well, listen, I know that you guys are doing amazing things and you've got a long way to go to carry on and take this out to the world. I wish you a lot of luck. I'll be the old guy out there pumping my fist when I see you in concert live. Looking forward to it very much. Mish, Haya, Noura, and of course Thing, all the best to you. Well, as promised, here are my Spotify rap results. My #1 song seems to be Stronger by Clean Bandit, one of my favorite bands, absolutely brilliant. And I know I did listen to that quite a lot, especially early on. And then it's interesting to see what else came up. We've got John Mayer, one of my favorite artists, absolutely brilliant. Chris Rea, A Blast from the Past, I've listened to a lot of him over the years. And then a couple of relaxing mellow ones. The theme from Harry's Game by Clannad, and Enya's Only Time. Those are my relaxing soundtracks. So absolutely fascinating. What a nice flashback from the past. As music evolves with each new generation, so does our use of language. A 65-year-old museum curator in Northern England recently became a familiar face with more than 10 million viewers when he popped up on TikTok providing a guide to the Leeds armories. He did so by addressing Gen Z in their own language, with hilarious results. Now he's a recognized star both online and in public. I'm joined now by the dude himself, to use apparently what's a Gen X word, Senior Curator Mark Murray-Flutter, with the creative genius behind the idea, Communications Officer Katie Glover.
Brat summer is over, bestie. It's time to enter your historical era. The Royal Armouries is the most Sigma day out in Leeds. No cap. What are you waiting for? The vibes are immaculate. Enjoy a goated day out. Slay.
Katie and Mark, really good to have you both on. And Katie, you're the genius behind this idea. And I'm wondering, how did you come up with it and how did you think Mark would react?
So I was actually away from work when this trend sort of started, and it was started by a B&B in Oxfordshire, actually. And I'd seen it was getting a little bit of traction, and I thought I need to get back to work. As soon as I come back from my holiday, I want to do this trend. So I started thinking up how we could tailor it to our collection and make it a bit more like historical. And Mark had been suggested to me by another colleague, and we thought absolutely he's got the perfect cadence in his voice for it. He's a very distinguished gentleman, so he's the perfect kind of foil to what we're trying to have him do. I really wasn't sure if Mark would be up for it or not. I'd hoped he would, but he was really enthusiastic. So that was always an added bonus.
That's it, Mark. I was going to ask what your initial reaction was to Katie's proposal.
Oh, I was actually very intrigued, and I thought this might be actually good fun, something I've never done before. And believe it or not, I was kind of looking forward to learning a new language.
It is. And I wonder if you had any hesitation or worries, Mark?
No, not really, no. No, I trust my colleagues.
Katie, what was it like working with Mark on the recording?
Oh, it was so much fun. Yeah, we did it on, I think it was a Friday morning, just before the museum opened, and it was just a laugh. He was actually amazing and did most of them in one take. But it was really fun behind the scenes, kind of explaining what the different things meant, choosing where we were going to film each shot. It only took us about, I don't know, 20 minutes. And yeah, we enjoyed it a lot, both of us, I think.
I'm surprised.
From my perspective...
Go ahead, Mark.
Sorry, Riz. From my perspective, my problem was trying to understand the context in which these new words were being used. Because when you speak about something or describe something, you can usually understand what those words are referring to. So I was having to learn a contextualization, a context for these new phrases and words. This is the largest display of arms and armour since the 19th century. Very based. Chat, this diorama is sending me. Dioramas are lit.
Well, when I saw the video, I had to have kind of a little Google with me at the time just to make sure I understood as well. But it was fascinating to watch it the way you said it. Katie, tell me about the moment when you posted the video and what happened afterwards.
So it was actually slower. Like we have gone semi-viral before this video, and this was quite a slow start. We started on the Friday afternoon just with a few thousand, and then it took about 2 weeks before I was like, wow, this is really taking off. And that was around when the press in the UK started getting interested as well. The first million was brilliant because hitting 1 million views for us is great, it's viral. And now we're nearing 10 million. So it was just completely unheard of. Every time I opened the phone when I got onto my desk each morning and refreshed, it was thousands of new comments, which was the nicest part, reading all the comments, and the followers as well just shot up. It was absolutely crazy. It was so rewarding to see.
10 million, that's absolutely amazing. Katie, what were your expectations? And then afterwards, Mark, what were your own expectations and what you made of the response?
Well, my expectations were a few 100,000. That was what I kind of expected because we'd had a few videos do well before, like I said, and I knew that this was the perfect time to be posting. The trend was in its sort of peak, and I'd hoped that we'd hit maybe 500,000 views. When we hit 1 million, I was really happy. So it way surpassed my expectations, and I think Mark was...
For me, it was, this is new territory for me, the social media world. I had heard on the grapevine that the social media can be quite a dark place at times. So to discover both its popularity and, more importantly to me, I think, was how nice people were. That was quite a shock and revelation. And so that was really pleasing to hear.
It's nice to see that positive side, as you say. Mark, how have you been coping with your unexpected celebrity? How often have you been recognised in the streets or on public transport?
Katie and I were just talking about that before we came on air here. Yes, I do get recognised on the train when I'm commuting. I got recognised at my local supermarket by 2 of the cashiers who wanted selfies, which is fine. I've got no problem with that at all. No, I just go with the flow. I think it's the best way of putting it. People are generally quite nice.
And I think, Mark, that Katie's talked you into making a sequel. Are there future plans for more, or are you going to retire your vocabulary?
I'm not retiring the vocabulary, but Katie has some ideas.
Yeah, we've got, obviously we did a part 2 and we did a blooper reel, and we've actually got a meeting in I think it's about a week and a half, 2 weeks, where we're going to discuss some future ideas. Maybe keep your eyes peeled around Christmas time as well for something special. So lots in the pipeline.
Divas, you all wanted to see more of me, I'd bet. Let me show you some of my favourite parts of the museum. This elephant armour is slaying the house down, Boots. I'm deceased. Hit us up, my guys. We are low-key flexing with free entry. See you soon, chat. Slay.
Amazing. Katie, you know, museums are getting increasingly creative at presenting their exhibits, and some others remain a little more stuffy or traditional. So what can other museums learn from this approach that you've taken?
I think it's just about expanding your audience, and that was the goal here. Is museums have a traditional audience, but reaching Gen Z isn't always the norm. But TikTok being the Gen Z platform, it's such a nice way of connecting with that younger audience, and they are interested. And I think that's a real lesson from this video. As you look at the comments, we've had people saying that they're going to book a flight and come here just because of this video, and not just online, but we've had people come into the museum and say, oh, they're here because we saw the TikTok. So there's a real lesson to be learned that Gen Z are interested, and it's really important to connect with them, and by using their own trends is the perfect way of doing that.
That's wonderful. I was going to say, Mark, what has been the impact on the museum from your perspective? Have people been searching your website and looking to visit the museum a lot more, perhaps to see its now famous curator?
Well, there's part of that. Yes, that is true. But museums deal with material culture, 3D objects in the main, and to really appreciate them, you must come and look at them physically. Although the process of these sorts of videos, this sort of social media work, introduces people to what we have, and I think that's the most important hook. And yes, I sometimes walk around the galleries, and I find that quite interesting when people stop me and ask me a question, ones which I can usually answer because that's my world and that's my skill set. So yes, it's quite fun. I am enjoying my life at the minute.
Well, you know, when I moved from the UK to the US to take up a job there years ago, I thought I was in a world with a completely different language. You know, the same language, but on two sides of the Atlantic, it's very different. It seems that it's another world completely now with the Gen Z language that you've been using. Katie, how influential is social media in changing our language?
Oh, it's incredibly influential. Just in the past few years, things have changed so much from like the rise of Gen Z. In fact, you know, on the video, we claimed it was a Gen Z marketing script, but there are millennial terms in there as well. And people really got up in arms about that. And then there's also Gen Alpha terms, Sigma and Rizz, for example, definitely more of the Gen Alpha side. So it's crazy to see how quickly language is changing online and how kind of defensive people are about their own generation and their different kind of words that they use. But it's all surrounding the internet, and TikTok in particular in the last kind of 3 or 4 years has really taken the kind of head as kind of the language changer, in my opinion.
Well, Mark, as you said, you're not retiring that vocabulary. Have you started using these words in everyday life?
Yes, I have, actually. I mean, I'm a baby boomer. Actually, I'm told I'm a baby boomer too. They split the baby boomers into two elements. So all the language, we didn't have social media back then, so the language is different. Yes, I'm enjoying trying to put this language into my everyday life, mostly because it's actually quite amusing, it's quite fun, and people seem to enjoy engaging with it. I've just got to remember what it all means.
Well, I was going to say, Mark, Gen Z is known for resurrecting trends and fashions from previous generations. Are there any favorite words you'd like to pass on from your generation, and my generation too, actually?
Well, it's, you know, one of the ones we used to use a lot back then was the word cool, in terms of what it used to mean. You know, it's really, you know, that's a really neat thing. Now, that sort of word, you know, it's almost from the San Francisco period of flower power and all that fun stuff. That's the early years of my growing up. Of course, we only saw that on films and on the newsreels. There's no such thing as social media. It was all sort of by word of mouth. Now it's all on your phone, isn't it? That's where it all lives.
Well, you know what's cool, Mark, is that the word cool was exactly what came into my head when I had to think about what would be something from our generation, so to speak. Now, Katie, in respect to members of Gen Z, is it fair to say this kind of behavior is perhaps not to be encouraged among parents, teachers, newscasters, and talk show hosts in particular? Should we avoid trying to use these words?
Oh, I don't think so at all, no. I think it's just a bit of fun, really. I think it's more encouraging to see people from older generations getting involved with it, because a lot of the time there can be a bit of a divide between generations. You know, boomers not appreciating things from Gen Z and Gen Alpha, but I think what me and Mark are doing here is a really, really nice, fun collaboration between the generations, and it just shows that, you know, we can all get on and we can all use the same language, and it's all just fun. So I would encourage any generation to use any language at all.
Well, you know, Mark,
well, can I ask you a question, Riz?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Would you use any of this language?
Well, you know, I have an 18-year-old, so I have sometimes to kind of translate certain things, but I struggle with it a bit because I went to a convent school in Aden. I was born in a British colony, and I had English beaten into me by nuns. So it's very hard for me to deviate. I never abbreviate text messages, for example, which is quite frustrating for some people, but I actually write everything out full, so it's hard for me. But I was going to ask you, Mark, if someone told you at the start of this year you'd become a social media star with millions of fans and a command of the Gen Z language, what would have been your reaction? Perhaps you can put it in terms that Gen Z would appreciate.
Well, that's a very good question. I've got to remember my phraseology now. Well, it would have been something which would have been amazing. Something I'm just struggling with the right word here to fit in.
I think you would have been shook.
I'll be shook. There you go. That's what I need. You see, Casey's really important to provide me with my appropriate vocabulary here. It's very shook. It was very shook. And I'm very slay about it.
That's slay. I was just going to say, it's the one word that stuck with me. Well, Katie and Mark, I have to again reiterate, my name is Riz with one Z, or Z as the Americans like to say. And Riz with two Zs, two Zs, was voted Word of the Year on this day a year ago. And you used a derivative word in your video, Rizzler.
Henry VIII is the original Rizzler. His codpiece hits different.
Now, I have to reveal something that I was given a year ago when that word Riz was the word of the year. It's a T-shirt with Riz on it. Now, I didn't even know there could be a derivative, but it seems that I'm being replaced by a new word now.
Well, no, what you need to get out your crayon and add the extra 3 letters now.
Yeah. So we decided to use Rizzler. Again, that's a Gen Alpha term, and it's a really silly way of saying someone has Riz. It's more of something to describe somebody. Someone is the Rizzler, and they have Riz. So if we're talking about Henry VIII being the Rizzler, it flows off the tongue better, really. But it's slightly less used than Riz.
I was the only kind of Riz around for so many years when I came out onto the media, doing shows. And people nicknamed me Rizzler, which was quite funny, but it was after the cigarette wrapper, the papers. So it was R-I-Z-L-A, which was kind of strange. Still, it was good while it lasted. I look forward to seeing you in person when I get to Leeds to see the museum itself. And it was really good to have you both on. Thank you both, Katie and Mark.
It was a real pleasure. Thank you
very much.
Well, for this segment, I've gone into full Rizzler mode. We'll explain more as we get some further insights into how this subject came about with my colleague Matty Potter, our social media editor at Al Arabiya News. Matty, thanks. Nice. Look, it was about a year ago I started to get all these messages from my friends saying that I was the word of the year, according to the Oxford University Press. Where did this word Riz come from?
Well, it came about on social media two or 3 years ago. It really came about first. It's just a shortened version of charisma, the word charisma. Having some charisma, and it's slowly kind of through online trends, through big influencers popularizing the term, became a sort of general term for just having Riz, sort of just meant to how you move to a person on a night out. So trying to attract the other person you're trying to attract. So yeah, it kind of stemmed into that, and then it kind of spiraled. Obviously with TikTok, the post-COVID boom that came with TikTok really popularized these terms. And sort of grew that sort of community. I'd actually say now the word Riz has been overused a little bit, and it's sort of on its way out. Never, no, not you, Riz, of course not you, but yeah, its meaning kind of changes a lot, which kind of happens a lot on social media. You'll have a term that's used in a certain way, and it'll slowly adapt as more and more people speak about it and infer it in their own way. So
that's the next question. What happened? It's disappeared, and what happens to it when it kind of disappears?
So a lot of the time, everything's very fast moving on social media. So terms come and go, especially with things like TikTok. It's kind of created a culture of, we call it fast food. So things come and go very quickly. Fast food terms, fast food trends. I mean, trends can last like a week or two. And now that everyone's sort of more and more comfortable sort of creating their own content or giving their own output and takes on things, a lot of things move on very quickly. So it will get overused, and then it's not cool anymore. It's not the trendy thing, because your mum might start using it, or your brother might start using it, yeah. And then it kind of comes into fashion, and new words come all the time. And as more and more people get online, younger, and the sort of average audience becomes younger and younger, more and more terms are coming, and sort of different inferences are coming from it.
They want their own thing, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
So I've been replaced, or Riz has been replaced by, actually, at least that was a cool word, but the new one, just announced, is not so cool.
Yeah. Brain rot.
Brain rot. I mean, that's awful. Actually, I remember using that as a word years and years ago, so it seems to have come around again.
Yeah, definitely. It's had a sort of resurgence. It's sort of just a general bracket term for all of those online exclusive terms. Riz, you would argue, is technically a term of brain rot. So it's just online slang that's just, again, like the original term, it's rotting your brain. It comes with the sort of content. It's not just for the slang. It can be, people use brain rot for example, for a type of content that's just sort of fast food, meaningless humor that's not going to stick with you. You're just going to sort of have a quick, cheap laugh and just keep going. So yeah, Riz is like an example of something. The word Riz is an example of brain rot because you're slowly losing the English language and you're using more and more slang of something that doesn't really even make sense.
I'm getting ready to change my name. I'm going to be associated with brain
rot Khan, I don't know.
Well, not to brain rot, that's for sure. I was going to say, though, it's interesting. So Gen Z has created its own language. You know, generations before had their own words as well. Every generation seems to want to have its own reference points, I guess. But then things move so fast, they seem to be getting even faster now.
Yeah. I mean, like I was saying earlier, like the social media boom, and with a lot more people becoming more comfortable creating content. The thing you need to understand about social media is for a long time, especially in the 2010s, as social media kind of became popular as a sort of platform, a lot of it was very much, the average person was just a viewership. They wouldn't really post on it too much, wouldn't try and be creative with too many videos. So you had a few anomalies of big YouTubers or influencers. It was a lot rarer at the time. Whereas now it's a lot more popular. I think when COVID had hit, a lot of people had a lot more time, became a lot more creative, and started trying things, like trying to post things. So as you become more and more of a producer of the content, or a producer of opinions on Twitter, or a producer of really putting your voice out there and really creating itself, that then leads into sort of more and more people getting involved in sort of these trends and terms. So everything's kind of as spiraled and become a lot faster now.
Is it meant to be a code? I mean, I don't recall my generation, or even a couple of those after, ever thinking of it as a code, but now it seems to be almost incomprehensible.
Part of it is, it's very much like the more in the loop you are, the more you'll understand, and it's quite a sort of distant idea. It's like learning it is kind of like a second language. It's like learning a second language. The more you sort of surround yourself in it, if I want to go and learn Spanish and I go into Spain, eventually I'm going to pick it up. It's the same sort of idea. You can pick terms and someone can explain to you a term, but a lot of the time, like if I try and teach my mum something, she might use it, but not in the right context. It doesn't make sense to us. So I don't think it's on purpose to try and be like, oh, so they don't understand. It's just the humor that comes with a silly new term that can explain it's usually something relatable or a big topic that talks about online. So.
I know we work together and we're friends.
Yes.
But how would you feel if I suddenly started talking about things like slay, and, had all these words?
Me personally, I would find it funny. I would love that. As a social media person working on here, I would love if you did that. But there are people who might find it cringe. They might find it like, oh, you're a bit out of touch. But then again, there's a charm to it. I think how serious you take yourself, if it became part of your vocabulary every single day, people might throw questions and be like, oh, you should be a bit more professional, or you shouldn't use these certain terms, etc. But I think for me, it's always I think it's always fun, and I enjoy seeing people trying to use those sort of words or getting themselves involved in popular culture and internet, because I think it's just a healthy way to...
My closest friends have been around since I was 11. I'm sure they would hate it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure there's going to be people, and social media has created that aspect where it's very polarized. People can be very judgmental. They're either very accepting, or they might be like, why is he doing that? That's cringe. Why is he... Oh, I'm not going to use this term anymore because he said it. That happens a lot. And even with not necessarily like older generations, it could be people in your current generation that you might not like as a creator for whatever reason. And if they start to use some sort of certain vocabulary, a lot of the time people will go, I'm not using that anymore because he's saying it. So it's very much like, it's very much pick and choose who you let
That's
in,
another term, creator.
Creator, exactly, yeah.
I was wondering how much like mainstream, like Hollywood and stuff, influences at least helps create some of these words. This film Wicked that's come out, everyone's anticipating. We used to use the word wicked as kids. Oh, it's wicked.
Yeah.
Is that going to come back?
I don't want to overpromise, Riz. I don't want to break your heart. It very much can. I mean, a lot of words come around all the time. All it takes is just one sort of silly, funny joke online, a little stupid joke online to do with that term, and it can very much come back around again. There's not any rules where things can't be. It's how it comes about and if people take to or not. It's very much a trial and error. Some people try and often like bring words to come back, and it doesn't work. I think a lot of the reason people like certain terms when they come back is it comes back quite naturally. It's someone just using it in a term, like for example, rizz. Like that's a shortened version of the word charisma. That's all it was really meant to be. And then the meaning kind of changed and adapted as people used it themselves. So it's how people take to it. So never say never to wicked. Maybe it might come back.
Do I have to burn this T-shirt?
I like Riz is still around. Riz is still around. I like the word Riz.
If it's associated with brain rot,
that's just any sort of internet slang term. It gets bracketed. People like to put things into sort of a box to understand it. So, yeah, I own.
You know, we talked about social media, the impact, because of course, my generation, even for quite a while after that, there was no quick form of transport of content like there is now with social media. How much is social media changing language because it's able to fly around the world in microseconds?
It's changing at such a crazy pace. It's really hard to even delve into the depths of it because I'll give you an example. I have a friend who's learning a new language. He's learning English. So I went to university with him. English wasn't his first language. And a lot of the time, historically, people who were trying to learn a language, you'd watch TV shows. You'd be watching, I know people who've learned English by watching Friends, the TV show, right? And you sort of naturally, now the content online, that you're learning English but mixed with slang terms. And now people are learning the language whilst also learning these brain rot terms that sort of mix into it. So social media has become such a heavy forum for people's consumption of content and things like that. So even just learning languages, it's affecting that way. So.
And I was curious where words come from. I mean, you know, there's obviously different communities. You have the LGBT community, you have the black community, Latino. Are these all sources for generating words?
Oh, definitely, for sure. I think a lot of slang terms that I might use growing up in London come from Afro-Caribbean sort of background and are built upon online over extended periods. I mean, before this sort of brain rot sort of language and these sort of things, a lot of the language is built off of like old slang from where I grew up in West London, in Notting Hill, where they had Notting Hill Carney. So there's a lot of like Caribbean influence in terms of our slang that we have in London. So it's kind of like a mix of all sort of English-speaking, mainly English-speaking languages in terms of like American slang. You have slang that's from the South, you have slang that's from New York, you have Los Angeles. There's all these different places where these sort of terms come, and it's kind of like a melting pot online of everyone's favorite terms from each one that they all accept, and it sort of grows naturally like that.
There's also this concept of verbing. I mean, in the old days, we would think Google is a name. It's actually the name of a company. But now we say, yeah, I have to Google it, or people are Googling and stuff. Yeah. That's become quite a big thing.
Yeah, that's a very popular thing. I think verbing, the use of verbing as a sort of slang term and sort of for language online, it helps with a lot of the time with content creation or explaining something in a relatable way. A popular one is mogging. I don't know if you know that one.
I've heard that word.
Yeah. So to mogging someone is just to basically be like, you kind of step on someone's shoes in terms of how you look. So you might be somewhere, and I've come and now I'm the star. So I've mogged you. I came into your presence and I stole your shine. That's a one way to term. So that's an example of a sort of a setup for funny humor online. So mogging someone is sort of like a humorous term. You're stepping on someone's shoes. So I think it just allows for content creators and sort of people online to make jokes easier whilst using the slang.
Life was simple for me. I mean, look, if I didn't understand a word, I went to a physical dictionary.
Yeah.
Or if it was another language, I went to a language dictionary, a Spanish dictionary, whatever. And then came Google Translate. But is there an app equivalent to Google Translate that would work with Gen Z, so an old fuddy-duddy like me would have a chance?
I think Googling certain terms usually is a good one. There's websites like Urban Dictionary that can help, but a lot of the time they have multiple.
But these are
meanings.
sources.
These are sources. Yeah.
But I'm wondering about an app where I can actually talk into it and it'll convert.
I guess that I wouldn't say there's one specifically. That might be a little gap in the market.
There you go.
But ChatGPT is usually pretty accurate at those sort of things. I mean, especially for those terms that are so popularized online, there's so much for it to analyze online because it's used so heavily. It's easier to translate, you know. So.
All right, for the time that I am allowed to use some of these words, what would be a few good words for me to know?
Okay, so I just taught you morging. That's one. I want you to keep using Riz because it's on brand. It's on brand, you know, it's your name, so it makes sense. Riz with Riz.
What are your favorite words?
Obviously, because I work in social media, I try and stay in the loop as much as I can. So a lot of my vocabulary, if you ask my friends, words will come and go. There's not many that stick around for the long haul. I kind of like to play into the trends because as soon as it becomes more part of my vocabulary, I start to get it more and understand more content online. Riz is still one of mine. What are some that I use? So a lot of it's from like the slang I use from back home. It has Jamaican roots and sort of Caribbean, Afro-Caribbean roots. So we'll use a word called peng, which just means anything. It's just something that's like good or nice. It can be used for beauty. It can be used as sort of a really nice drink or food. Oh, this food is peng. That would be one word you can say.
P-E-N-G?
P-E-N-G, yeah. So it's just used to describe anything that's sort of like you enjoyed and it is nice to you. It originated from speaking about someone that you're attracted to. You would say, oh, they are peng. But then it's kind of, again, with online, molded into like describing like things you like, food, clothes, style, etc. And another popular one is aura. I don't know if aura. So if you have aura, it means you have like a good energy. You have
so I get that because I can understand it as a word.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Actually, that's probably an expression we would have used, you know, years ago.
Exactly.
As well.
So if someone has aura, it's someone who came in with a presence. It's like a presence that you really felt.
I could have Riz and aura.
Yeah, exactly.
The Riz aura.
Exactly.
So, you know, one of the reasons we're talking about this is because of that, you know, viral video from the Leeds Armories Museum where the 65-year-old curator, Mark Murray Flutter, started to do this tour, or he did this tour in Gen Z language. What did you make of that?
That was great. I loved it. That is a great example of embracing a younger audience and getting them involved in something that maybe they might not have. Museums can often be seen as like by the Gen Z as boring. It's sort of like a generally aimed at you have an older audience normally at a museum. So to involve Gen Z language to explain like all the different things on display and what they have to offer there, I thought it was brilliant and yeah, really good. And it's good to see those sort of things work well when it is. It's honest. He clearly was into it and was interested by it. So.
He looked more comfortable in the second one. He was actually really enjoying it. The first one, he was quite nervous.
Yeah, he was a bit nervous. But those sort of things, when it's so natural like that, it resonates a lot more than audience. People can see through if someone's trying to do it for a cause like that. They're trying to just get some views on a video. That was just like an actual natural like. And
I guess you know we used to use the word cool, and when I spoke with him, he said cool was the word he would have used. Yeah. I mean, we're about similar age, you know. So, but I'm guessing that even if it's not considered too cool for someone my age to be using these Gen Z words, I could have a go. So 100%. Yeah. So nevertheless, I've asked you to help me prepare a script to close the show, which could be understood by people under 27. I may live to regret this, but thanks for your time and advice, Matty, because I'm going to try this out and we'll see how it goes.
Can't wait.
All right. Cheers. Thank you. Man, that episode just hit different, no cap. We spoke to a litty female band from Saudi with more aura than Duke Dennis, no glaze. Spotify put us on with some fire data about the Spotify Wrapped results. W Spotify in the chat. And we spoke to the low-key geniuses behind the Bussin' Brain Rot Leeds Armory vid. And finally, Matty Potter, who's just a chill guy who does our social media, teaches us MPCs, the do's and don'ts of speaking Gen Z. Bro thinks he's fluent. Well, that's enough yapping from me. Blood thinks it's a Kai Sanat Sabathon. Shout out the mafia. I've been the Riz Khan, and we'll see you soon.
That was great.
Did it work?
That was great. What have I created? What have I created? I created a monster.
Slay.